not a case of a drug pusher, and she wouldn't watch me when I was there. So a top hat might resolve that. Congratulate you for trying to wrap your tongue around the original language, which is the most difficult on the planet. And we still have a lot of problems ourselves. But just give you a little bit of a hand, those 4 words you were trying to pronounce, which you came close on, and all credit for that. It was Bunjalung, the Ramangeri, Gamilaroi, and the most important word of all is the word Wirichin. So we'll sort of clear that up first, and thank you for having a go. And I will make the point that nobody from overseas has ever got the words right. So you're just part of the group, and there's no criticism implied. Ladies and gentlemen, today we chose something that fitted in with the general theme of what these guys wanted to present. And in particular, I was listening when you were in the question zone before, you're talking about this change that's around. And it made us decide what we should talk about for the next hour should be based around that change. We want to give it some more substance. So what we've done is we've taken something we just gave on our online conference and changed it around and jigged it around a bit and taken a sort of an excerpt from the first 2-hour session, haven't we, Evan?
Yeah.
And we decided we'd sort of present that, mix it up a bit, change it around a bit for those who've heard it so they don't fall asleep halfway through, and talk about this change from the viewpoint of actually, well, we were there when it began, the very instant it actually began at Uluru. But in doing this, being very aware of the fact this was a global change, what I'd like to do, and I don't think we did this on the online conference, did we?
No,
we didn't. So it is different. Okay. I'm going to get Evan to read a prophecy, and it's a prophecy about the change that was going to take place, and it has taken place. And it's a Hopi prophecy, and I think it's a nice way to kick off proceedings from that particular quote. The rest of this presentation will radiate. So off you go, Evan.
We've been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. Now we must go back and tell the people this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth, create your community, be good to each other, and do not look outside yourself for the leader. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep our eyes open and our heads above the water. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt. The time for the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in the sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the base of where we're going to take this. Now, I'm going to make the point that our source for all our research is indigenous ancient wisdom. We believe the keepers of the wisdom of the past are the salvation of the future. So we're going to talk to begin with about a prophecy that took place at Uluru on the 21st of December at 7:32. And I need to give some background information, which we did in the last one. We're trying to flesh this story out to give people an understanding as to why it was in every presentation we gave leading up to the 21st of December last year, we continually said, we don't know. We're not sure. We're not convinced. And it may well be nothing is going to happen there, which is quite an unusual way to ask people to join in a celebration and ceremony and jump into that river We're basically saying we're not sure if the river's there and we're not even sure if we've got a boat. But be that as it may, I need to explain a little bit about how this came about. I was first alerted to this by an elder in Victoria, Brendan Murray, about 4 years ago. And he spoke to me then, and he said there would be a ceremony that took place, and he gave me the date and the year, and it was the same one all the way through. He was right then. And our understanding was it was a culmination of nearly a decade of lead-up ceremonies that were going to take place at the same time as the summer solstice and the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. So that was the story. And he told me this ceremony would be, these are the words he gave us way back at the start, a separation into two paths or two roads, which the Mayans speak about all the time. Whether you call it in the river or not on the river, it's a choice of one of two ways. That's the part that needs to be understood. So you need to understand the story we're talking about. The Hopi has spoken about. The Inuit speak about this. The Cherokee speak about this. It's all, the Mayans speak about it. It's been a common knowledge. And if you look in the scriptures, you'll find they also speak about whether they call it a golden age. It doesn't matter. It is a commonality everywhere. Now, some people might think it's a bit bold to claim that we're there at this time, what makes us special. And if you look around, there's not much there that seems to warrant it, but it's here. Now, what happened from there was other people contacted us. Some remain consistent, but I'm going to be honest with you. Two of our contacts, even it's fair to say, turned on us at different ways and different times, didn't they?
Yeah, stabbed in the back.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why we were given information about the time, and we told everyone it was 8:02. Now, we have emails and people who are with me when other people told me this will witness, that will testify to the fact we were given that time, and we were deliberately given the wrong time to try and white ant this. So all the way through, and we knew this was going on. We knew that within Uluru, there were arguments about whether it was even going to happen or it was going to happen. Some people said it was, and others said it was rubbish. So even on the day before the actual ceremony, when we gave a talk, it was a cosmic consciousness with Mick and Catherine, who put the conference on under a lot of pressure, mainly via us, and they stood by us, so we eternally thank them for that. Well, we gave a presentation that day, didn't we, Evan?
We did.
We did, and we told people then, it's on tomorrow, but we're not sure if it's on. And as we left that room, we still didn't know until we got a phone call from someone telling us the elders were putting it on, and we knew on the 20th that this thing was going to take place. So that's the beginning of this story. Now, before we start to go through and look at the events that took place after, again, we're going to deviate from our other presentation, remind people that some people have said to me, well, what's so special about the sun and the moon getting in the way of each other and two planets lining up? I mean, they're gas planets and they're not around the corner, are they, Evan?
They're a bit down the road.
Down the road and around the other corner and millions of kilometres away. And what difference does it make to anything? It's a valid comment. And I've got to be honest with you, it was one of my issues. And before I get to the actual prophecy, because the prophecy is really non-scientific, but we'll get there slowly. So we had that as an issue. But I want to thank one information group, NASA, because they did some things and released information that convinced me, oh yes, something amazing was taking place with this conjunction. And very quickly, let me go through what NASA has released since December the 21st. These are the things that took place, not on this planet, but around our solar system. Pluto. The atmosphere of Pluto, whether it's a planet or not, I don't really care. We all know where it is anyway. It's out the back, long way away, fair way from that alignment, also further away than we were. Its atmosphere is compressed 80%. Nobody knows why. Then you go to Neptune, the planet that's bluish green, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. that never had two eyes, but now has two massive eyes across its planet surface. The weird part is they're going in the opposite direction to the way the planet is supposed to spin. And as it's a gas planet, what we're seeing on the eyes is the surface, which means it's gone in reverse. Then you get to Uranus, and according to NASA, for the first time ever, it's exploding in X-rays. Never did it before, but since the 21st of December last year, that's what it decided to do. Then let's go to Mars, which is closer than we are to where this took place. And according to NASA, the axis has tilted 4 inches. And they know that as an absolute fact. Now, you might not think 4 inches is a long way, but you try and find a machine that can move a planet 4 inches. And I've got to tell you, it'd be a pretty deadly machine, wouldn't it? It'd work anywhere. So something happened there. And of course, as people probably don't know, is soon after the 21st of December, we had our 2 largest earthquakes. 9.6, followed by 9.7 as an aftershock, which never happened before. And that happened in Antarctica. These are facts that took place before or just after, no, all just after the event, none before. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is this prophecy before we start to look what happened after? Because I have to tell you the prophecy now, but if I told you to begin with, Evan, I'd probably walk out the door, wouldn't they?
They might do.
I would have. I would have. All right. All of that is science. Okay, let's get this right. I didn't channel this. Evan didn't make it up. This is science. Mind you, he finds all the science. I never look for anything. I'm just given this stuff and then told what to do with it. But lo and behold, that is scientific. What I've also been told is that this 2 paths, we have information, the river that they speak of, we have information as to what it looks like and how it functions. We are told that there are 2 ways we can walk. And if you go on one of these 2 paths and you choose it yourself, you will leave this planet for a long period of time and you will vacate this planet in a couple of years. Anyone that makes the wrong choice. Now, it gets weirder than that. Because what I was also told was the Schumann resonance, which we're going to talk about in more detail in a second. And most people know about it. And if you don't, we're going to talk about it and explain it when we get there. It would actually lift and continue to lift, and there would end up being massive peaks that we've never seen before, and it will grow and grow as the Earth starts to explode in energy. Because if this prophecy worked, the Earth will heal itself. Now, for those that choose that path, that's where they stay. For the ones who choose, or their soul chooses a different vibration, because there will be a time in the future where simultaneously there won't be one vibration coming out of the planet, there will be 2 at the same time. And if you are working at a lower vibration, you will be drawn to that vibration. If you're working at a higher vibration, you'll be drawn to that one. Then soon after, because you can't have 2 realities on one physical plane, the lower vibration vanishes completely. And here's the tricky part. So do all of the people who are drawn towards that vibration. That's where it gets a bit difficult. I don't know how that happens. I do know one thing, that after that event, and yes, there was a number needed to turn on what the elders called, not us, Evan, it wasn't us, was it? No, it was called the magic box at Uluru. Now, we were led to believe it was a box, weren't we, Evan?
Yes.
That was false information again, because really we got, what was more false information or true? Which came more?
More false.
Yeah, definitely. So we told people that, and the number that was needed, we were told this, and I think that part was true because it was mixed up. It was lies and the truth together. That's why it was hard to work out which was which. Well, we got 10 times that number. Between 15 to 20 million people joined in that meditation. And what I want to talk about next is, I said to people, look, if it doesn't work, and it may not, What can be the harm in 15 million people, 20 million people, stopping everything, sitting down somewhere with the earth and sending out positive vibrations? So I sort of looked at it as a no-lose situation. Either way, there's something worthwhile that comes out of it. So then, what actually happened? Well, let's look at the one thing. When we went and did this, we took a group of about 350 people from the conference, and we went out onto an oval. Nowhere on sacred ground, was it, Evan? About 20 k's away?
Yeah, it was a footy oval.
A footy oval, and it had a wonderful view of a
Toilet block.
toilet block. Oh, lovely toilet block, wasn't
And
it?
Uluru was somewhere
Behind the toilet block. So we took some sacred rocks and we aimed them straight at the men's toilet. Hopefully it got past the men's toilet to Uluru. So that was part of what we did. We had a celebration there. Now, what I want to show you now is the end results of this slightly unscientific, very mystical journey, where we're going to find out that the old wisdom keepers of the way were the ones who were always right, and the ones of today were the ones who are always lying. That's what happened. So let's have a look what happened after the event, please, Evan. Let's start off. And we're going to start with what happened at exactly the same time. And what we found is around the world, there were these massive shafts of light. Now, this one in Croatia is not a Photoshop. You can see the, I think it's at the telegraph lines going past.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's not a Photoshop. It is actually what people saw. Now, it went ballistic on, what's that word called? Facebook?
Yes, that one.
Right, yeah. It went ballistic on that. I'm not really sure what I'm talking about now. And people weren't talking about the photograph. They were talking about what they saw. Now, you'll see there's a conversation there from the person who sent it to us. And they said the sun was in a different position. The clouds were in the sea. And that's what they saw. And you can see a disc above it. You'd swear, and I'm starting to feel, because we've got information about this, it's a UFO injecting light at that moment, or maybe taking it out. I don't know which, because we don't know for sure. But that was sent to us. It wasn't Photoshop. And I can tell you now, in Croatia, in fact, it made the news, but not in Croatia, in the surrounding Balkan states, didn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a little hint of some of the stuff we've got. Now let's look at another place called Australia. This was taken by Ros Mulder, a person who's been working with us and part of a partnership, honestly, for such a long time. And that one's got the same sort of effect, where you've got a funnel of something in a column, a round column, going from the earth to the sky, or from the sky to the earth. We don't know which. And again, please, Evan. And this is at the same time at a different angle. So what I'm trying to show you is the sky was doing particularly weird things that skies don't normally do. But it's not just this way, is it, mate? There are other ways the sky can be a little bit different. Yeah. But before we go any further, let's look at another part of this story. We've got the shafts coming out there, but let's look at this business about the Schumann resonance, because this was an integral part of the prophecy that the earth, if the rock was turned on, if enough people meditated and turned that rock on at that time, that the world would heal itself rather than what it was going to do, which was to wipe us out. Okay, let's look at the Schumann resonance. And primarily, for those who don't know, I thought, until I read the thing, we can't read it today because it's too long. I thought it was actually coming out of the earth, but it's an interaction between the sun and the earth, isn't it?
Yep.
It's an interaction between the two.
So you're looking at color code there. You've got the background, which is low intensity. Then you've got shafts of light green, which is normal. And you're looking at the white, and then the orangey.
Yeah, the orange peaks further, yeah.
They're the peaks that you look for significance. Now,
the main machines, the people working on this mainly are in Russia, Ukraine, and places like that. I know they do it in America, but they won't actually tell you. So it's like a second ball around there, and they feed off each other. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's a little thing there showing how it works, and it reverbs backwards and forwards inside ourselves. So it's an energy exchange between the sun and the earth, and the higher it gets, the more white it gets, or it can go further, but we'll get to that in a sec. So let's look at what happened on the day, please, Evan, when this actually happened. And you will find, and we want to thank Omar, who's one of the panelists today, for sending this to us. and you'll find it exactly 7:32 on the 21st of the 12th. This is when it begins. And it peaks around the 30s and stays around there for the next 4 hours. And as he pointed out the next day, there was like a small reverb that took place on the 22nd. But I want you to remember that date, the 21st of December, 2020. And I want to remind you of something. The Pentagon made an announcement that they were going to investigate the phenomena of UFOs on the 21st of December. Within 12, because I mean, it would have been our 22nd by then, about 12 hours after Uluru came to life. Now, some people would say that's a coincidence, and yes, it could be. Throw in the planetary things we spoke about, now the Schumann resonance, and notice we had people meditating for 3 to 4 hours, and you will note that as that meditation continued, it stayed there. It wasn't just a small little peak, it's a combined mass, which tells us one thing, that even if Uluru didn't turn on, then what happens is when people send out positive energy, it's received and amplified on this planet. And that's a really important piece of science, because we know by what the count was, it was around 15 to 20 million. And that's what you've got. So that's the hint of some form of reaction. Let's move along, please, mate. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we know that the Schumann resonance has gone up to 6,000. We've seen that, haven't we?
Yes.
Right. Now, from 30 to 40 to 6,000, that is a huge peak. That means the Earth is changing big time. Now, this is where it gets weird, doesn't it, mate?
Mm-hmm.
This is where there's nothing. And Evan's got a huge readout on it, and we can't do it all today.
No.
But basically what's there is, what did they think to begin with, Evan? What did they think had happened?
Well, what they thought was, because Mercury was in retrograde, it was just like a glitch, because often when Mercury is in retrograde, I don't know if people are into that or not, I know basically induced me into a coma, because everything goes wrong with communication, and that's mechanical and human based. So they just went, oh, it's one of these things again.
Then they thought the Americans could have been doing
something with G7 that they might have been tweaking with their equipment. This equipment's in a university over in Tomsk in Russia, but
no,
they've actually worked out none of those things.
It meant basically, ladies and gentlemen, for that period of time, the energy the Earth was vibrating in was so large, way over 6,000. And it wasn't just a momentary peak, it was a massive period of time. See, every one of those numbers is an hour, isn't it, Evan? 24 hours in a day. It went on for a day and a half, or day and a third, where there was nothing registering, because it was so high it couldn't measure it, which meant that it's gone way above 6,000, because it could measure 6,000.
Here we go. However, when there was only blackness, which we see there, this is when the light is so powerful that human-created technological equipment cannot register the numbers. So basically, it's off the chart. It's
off the chart, which means we're starting to feel like now, ladies and gentlemen, we were told that it's this magic box. The switch was turned on. It would slowly, and by the way, we found out, and we knew this well before, but we didn't want to tell anyone at the time because it would have confused people. For those who expect to see something like Lord of the Rings, where you climb in and there's a magic box with rings inside and crystals, no, it was actually Uluru itself. And if you look at it from a distance on the plane there, it looks like a box sitting on top of a flat plane. They did put Pleiadian crystals inside, for those who are wondering about that, and that was part of the facilitation, but it wasn't actually a box. But this is what's happening now, because I was told, and we were all told this, if Uluru turns itself on, it would then send energy across to 5 other sites in Australia, then one across the Rainbow Bridge to New Zealand, then to every sacred site in the planet would slowly be re-energized and recharged. The Earth is healing itself from within, and humans either have to get on board with this or leave the planet. That's what this is about. Okay, so now we've got the Schumann resonance running with us. Let's go back to the sky above, because not only did the Schumann go dark recently and peak on the day, the sky went bizarre. Okay, there's a picture of the sky at sunset. In fact, it's below sunset. I want you to look at the horizon at that washed out grayish blue. Then I want you to look in the middle where you've got this massive peak of blue that just doesn't fit. I remember turning around and asking the security guard there, the chief security guard, Kay, I said, have you seen sky like this before? And she'd been at Uluru for years, and she said, never. We were holding a ceremony there, and after it was finished, there were other planned activities that Mick and Catherine had put on, but nobody wanted to do anything but just look at the sky. Now, this is after we finished this ceremony. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting to get a pattern. We've got below the earth, and Evan's going to tell you in a second when we get to the meditation, that vibration we're talking about, it was felt. It was felt there, and we'll get to that in a sec. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we were looking at. Okay, moving along, please, mate. And that was a bridge of sky that went from the two sacred sites, the men's and women's sites of Uluru and Katajuka. And it basically spanned across them at that particular sign. And you can see that hole in the center, taken from a different angle. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at something. That cloud above is 10 minutes before. When I was setting the rocks up in sacred formation, they came over and I felt 2 drops of rain come out of it. And I thought, oh, no, we're going to get rained on. This is going to be a disaster in the middle of the desert rain. I couldn't believe it. But yes, that was, but look at before and after. That's a 10-minute break. That's just not natural. And believe me, we've got more sky stuff coming on, so you might still be cynical, but we haven't finished the sky story. Okay, so that gives you an idea what we're looking at, and that is why everyone sort of stopped and looked at the sky and said, what has happened? We were sitting down expecting to be rained on, and it was a sort of a rain. It was a light rain, literally light rain. Okay, moving along. Right, now, that some people might say, oh, that was done by the sun, weren't they, Evan? Oh, yeah, it was done by the sun.
Yeah, the good old sun.
Yeah, the sun does those sort of things. Well, this is the moon in Georgia, USA, at 7:32, whatever that is over there, exactly the same time. And look what the moon's doing. Why does the moon turn the sky blue, and why is it that intense blue there? What's going on there? I feel like there's a spear that went through the planet from Uluru and came out of Georgia on the other side, because it's on the opposite side of the world. It's in the northern hemisphere. We're in the southern hemisphere. I might be wrong, but it's too much of a coincidence. This was taken at exactly the same time we took the pictures on the other side. So there's a commonality in that. Right, now, this is where it gets interesting. This was not taken by us. It wasn't taken by our crew. It was taken by another person who was filming Uluru, right? Now, I can tell you 2 things that were said about these people, and they told us this, and we thank David for that. It was taken by Holly Clark. We weren't with them. They were filming this. They did not see what you're going to see, and there was no one there taking flash screen, as some people said, and that's actually got across there, because if it did, it would be intense in one spot and lighter elsewhere. They never saw this until the day after. It only goes for a second and a half, and we'll play it twice. Now, I'm going to play that a second time, and before you play it, I want you to look at Uluru, and you'll find when that flash of light takes place, it does not cover the rock. Now, there's no lightning. That's everywhere. That just happened. And by the way, we know it happened at 7:37. You'll notice it was written down there. And what that means is we started our meditation at exactly 7:32. It took 5 minutes for enough people to chime in for that energy to get to Uluru, because we were 300 and we needed a large 6-figure amount. So we weren't enough on our own to get this going. And I also feel like it took a bit of time to travel through the earth from different places to build up that energy. 5 minutes on, we now have an explosion that's taken place. But was that explosion of light just at Uluru?
No, it was in other places.
Well, how would you know that, Evan?
Well, here we go. Here's one in Hungary.
Hungary.
Yeah.
Okay, and you'll notice different angles are taken by different photographers. It's not Photoshop, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like it's raining light, which is what I said before. That was an intentional pun. Yeah, I know. Pretty crappy piece of humor, but it works for me. I'm easily amused. When you get as old as I am, it's much easier to laugh at things. Okay, so we've got it in Hungary. Maybe that's an aberration. Maybe that's just a one-off with Uluru.
No, it's not.
So let's go to another part of the world, and let's go a couple of thousand Ks away again. Let's spread this around the whole world, so this is not shared in one spot. Let's go to Glasgow. And that was taken from the front page of the paper, from the main paper in Glasgow, which is a large place. And who's the guy from Scotland? That's
Kev.
Kev. He lived there because he's from Scotland. He said, I never saw this once. And you'll see that one of those pieces of light, if you look at that house there, is running across the actual roof and coming down into the ground. They said it's like something from War of the Worlds. Everything in that was right, except they pluralized the last word. It was the War of the World, where the world was finally winning. It was cleansing itself. Okay, so now we're starting to get a pattern. There's something going on here. Now, let's go back to what people were doing in Iceland, in England, in the middle of the night, when the ground was frozen and they had to touch the ground. The people who went out and put themselves out, because a lot of people had to go out in the night to do this, and it was winter, because at Uluru, December is summer, but we've heard in the Northern Hemisphere that would be their winter, wouldn't it? And I believe in some places it gets cold there. They went out to do this. So let's talk about what they actually did, because what we did at our ceremony with the sacred rocks, yes, that made it more powerful, but no less powerful than everyone else's effort together. So let's look at what we did. Okay, that picture was taken when I stood back from the rocks and realized I had the rocks in the right formation to get this group working and venerate the rocks at Uluru. So that was the first thing we got, which is bird sign. And when we go onto country, that is obligatory. When we ever go onto sacred sites, we wait for bird sign, because unless that happens, we're worried. Oh, it can be lizard sign too.
Yeah, it can be.
At Carry On, it's the little lizards that turn up each time and stare at you. That is just a given thing. Now, a scientist will say it's not related. I would say to that science, you've got a couple of years to get this together, mate, because if you can't see this soon, you won't stay much longer. It is related. So what did we do there? Everyone was given sacred ash from a very important fire that my elder, Kano, he died 3 days after. I was given that ash, and everyone was given that ash. And around at 7:32, we all stopped. And for the next 20 minutes, nothing was said, and everyone faced the rock. Now you can see in the background, can you see the sky there as it's setting? It's still a browner color, but it's about to change. But the strange part is it becomes all lightish and all different lights when the sun is gone. It's back to front, ladies and gentlemen. This just isn't right. Evan, you were meditating. I know I was doing the stuff and trying to arrange it, but you were meditating and you had to take your hands off the ground, didn't you?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Well, I had this compulsion to put my hands into the ground. I was lucky enough to have a little bit of a dirt patch in front of me. So hands into the ground, and then I started to feel a pulsing in the ground, but my arms started to shake enough for everyone around me going, why are your arms shaking? Because, yeah, they were shaking with that pulsing energy that was going through the ground.
Didn't some people touch you and feel it?
Yeah, and they tried to stop my arms shaking and it didn't work.
And there were other people I saw, because I was sort of running this ceremony, and other people were pulling their hands up off the ground. I could see what was happening. They were actually feeling that resonance that was building up as this was all taking place at the same time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of circumstantial evidence. And I've got to make the point, it's very clear to me, it was made clear to me from the very beginning. When I said the word Pleiadian crystals at the start, for those who don't believe in this sort of stuff, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say this. The aliens were part of this. They were involved. Now, I knew they were going to be involved, and a lot of people said, gee, I really hope that that's going to happen. Now, I want to show you something with this. What's happened there is that circle there is where the rocks were, and we had a lot of trouble because after the ceremony had finished, we were inside just starting to move the rocks slowly, weren't we?
Yeah.
And then about 5 or 6 people got in the middle and just hold arms for we won't talk about that. That was okay then. That was not mask bearing time. That was all okay. That was all fine then. There wasn't anything in that territory, so they're allowed to do that. And that circle got bigger and bigger until there were 300 people dancing inside it. And we had a lot of trouble moving the rocks out, didn't we?
Madly trying to get it.
Throwing them out because I was getting the rock. They were getting closer and closer. They became tribal. They were sailing around in circles and just, it was like you were at an American Indian power. They were just dancing around in circles, holding arms and just changing. They were becoming tribal because this is how the future is going to be. This is part of what's supposed to take place. So that was all going on, but nobody really looked hard at the sky, did they?
No.
We looked at it as a mass.
Oh, wow. That's some nice
Check
colours.
that out. I mean, you look now, it's gone a sort of crimson purple color because it changed colors from that point on. You saw the orange color, then it went into different colors at different times. And that's what was so weird about this. But one person who was legally blind did look up. So let's look at that, please, Evan. Let's start. We'll just introduce the people involved, Sarah and Austin. Now, I'm going to recommend something for people who like to find out more about this. In our last online conference with Paul, when we were talking about this in a lot of detail, we did a half-hour interview with them. And I can tell you, these two people were chosen by whoever was in that craft. They were chosen the night before. Now, I'm not going to give much away. If you want to find out, well, then you're going to have to spend a massive amount of 26 Australian dollars for about 7-8 hours of talking about this thing and all the different information, what Paul does and what others did, plus that interview. And you'll find out this is not a coincidence. None of it is. They were deliberately chosen to film this. So they chose the man that has had a major problem with his eyes and he's registered as legally blind to film this event. So we're going to play it for you the first time. Evan's going to hit it now. And I want you to watch an object that makes its way across the sky that only 2 people saw. And they were both at this car park, not with the rest of us. Hit it, please, Evan. Right, ladies and gentlemen, there's a couple of comments I want to make. Well, there's a couple of close-ups they've shown us also. A couple of comments I want to make about that story. Number one, all UFO story film you'll see is someone trying to capture the UFO. He didn't see it. You got to remember that. They never saw this that day. They looked at it
saw
later.
Months later when they were going through the footage. And
When they went through, what is that? That's the first time they saw it. So one of the reasons, apart from the fact he's legally blind, come on, a cameraman's legally blind. It's harder to be a cameraman. He was filming the clouds. He wasn't filming that. And it's very interesting because when you watch it, it seems to be making its way ever so slowly, viewing what's taking place, and we know that was the case, towards that blue portal thing. Because when you come back the third time, it's a 1 minute 20 odd thing. When you come back from a minute, when you come back after that, it's gone. Now, I want you to think about this. It's moving quite slowly. I mean, really slowly. And then when it comes back, and then he scans the whole horizon, you can't see it anywhere. It was like it was moving like a snail, and then all of a sudden it was moving like a cheetah and just completely disappeared. And we figured it must have gone up the portal. Well, it actually did. But here's the interesting part. What you're going to find is there's a picture taken there at 59 seconds and 1 minute. And you will see there's an arrow pointing at the portal. But here's what's happened. If you run the other one, you see nothing. What Amanda Smith did, and I've spoken to her about this, and she really hasn't fully explained why she decided to do this. She slowed it down by a factor of 4. And what she found is those two pictures that you've got at those two times where you've got the arrow pointing at them, and you'll notice they've moved a long way. Those two pictures, one up there and then one way down, you can't see them in the other film because they're only on those two frames. The other frames before and after is not there. So our eyes aren't quick enough to pick up a flash of a minuscule second where it reappears. And have a look at the distance between the two spots it's moved in less than a second, and then you can't see it. It's as if it's disappearing somewhere and it's been captured just as it's about to go in that second or so, and then it's gone completely. Now, I don't care what the Pentagon claim about what they think other nations might have made. There is no plane, object, or flying anything in the world that cannot be in there for 3 frames in that second, then there for the 4th, and then goes. Then they're not there for 3, then there for the 4th, and gone, reappears, and then goes for good. How fast is that? And where's it gone? How would you capture it? It's an amazing piece of film of a UFO, an unidentified flying object, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess who just came in. Well, the person who filmed it just came in at the right time. They're legitimate. They didn't Photoshop anything. I remember Sarah coming back and saying that her husband had gone out and told the conference at the time. That is not what happened here. It was a person who was filming. And now the most important part of that, he wasn't the only one. If you look very carefully, there is a witness who'll back this up. Because when they go back to the car park, there's a woman there holding up her mobile, and she is not filming the rock. She's aiming at and pointing directly at the spot the camera went past twice. We caught it twice. We didn't catch it the third time, ladies and gentlemen, but we did. There it is. Now, I know the Pentagon have said, I think it's the Chinese or Russians. Forget it. The Chinese or Russians can't do this. What you're looking at now is a technology way beyond our call. And we have had verification from the mob that fly these machines. They were there and they were fully aware of what was going on and quite anxious and hopeful that it would be successful, which it has been. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we've got there is, I believe, undeniable proof before and after with the planets and the way they've changed and what happened at Uluru and what happened all over the planet. And ever since that day, those two paths have separated, and it's become more obvious that there's 2 ways of doing things. You go with the flow and you stay on the shore, or you jump in the river. And remember, you jump in on your own. This is an individual choice. If you join a team, you won't be part of this. A Hoppy said, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And they told you to go jump into that river, and there'll be people on the shore that aren't coming. That's their decision. Each person decides as they want. But of course, we're trying to convince you of a metaphysical truth by wrapping around the empirical evidence. But I've got to be honest, and we've got to be fair about this, Evan.
Yep.
There have been offers, rather, how could I put it? Angry offers of alternatives. So
Impassioned.
passion, yeah. Well, I don't know about that. But anyway, a lot of people have been very quick to tell us we're idiots and quite a few other things for even doing this. And some have told us we've ruined all our work for even saying this stuff. But we've got to be even-handed about this. We've got to back up. We've got to present the other alternatives for what you've seen in that video. So sorry, Sarah, I know you're on there at the moment, but there are other options for this. So we better look at them and be fair about this. Hold the first one. Now, the person who I mentioned this, he's written back to me, Evan.
Yeah, I don't think he likes you.
He doesn't like me.
No.
Does not like me at all. And I'm sorry, if you're watching right now, you're probably not going to like me anymore. One of the things is a drug runner. Okay?
They're
Drug runner.
using like a small plane.
A small plane, and they're going to run drugs around Uluru. By the way, all of the communities around there were closed down from COVID. No one could get in. If you didn't live there, you couldn't get in. So they were flying around Uluru just after sunset. And by the way, they were a long way from the airport, and there's no planes in the air, and the airport's closed, but they were flying around, and they were going to do a drug run. They were going to land in the sand somewhere and then pass on their drugs in the middle of Australia where no one lives.
Yep.
Oh, except poor blackfellas.
And somehow not be on the radar for all of that.
Well, we'll talk about the radar soon. Well, don't give it away. Oh, God, you've embarrassed me. You gave away my punchline, man. I was going to build up the radar later, the radar film later. I'd like everyone to ignore what he said. It's another mistake you've made, Evan. That'll go down on the score sheet later on tonight. Okay, next one, please, and try and get that right. Okay. Oh, what's that one about?
Oh, yeah, that's a little link. If people want to know more about what we've been talking about, go to the website and check out the final circuit, a two-way street.
Is that an ad? I don't approve of that. Oh, it is on there. What? Oh, God. I'd like to apologise, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't know we're doing ads. That's his fault, not mine. Next one, please, Evan.
Well, people might want
to get
know
off the
more.
shameless ad. Get back the information. That's more important. Yes, swamp gas. As it's been used, but by the way, I've got to make a point. Uluru is in the desert. We're a bit short on swamps around Uluru. There isn't any. There is a little creek that runs, or sort of lays. It doesn't really run. And when it really rains a lot, you see water for a day or two, but you can't get a swamp. Sorry, guys. We looked around for that. Weather balloons, ladies and gentlemen, go up, and they track the weather by going up. They don't go horizontally across, unless there is a wind of about 150 k's, and I can assure you there wasn't any dust. In fact, there was no wind whatsoever. It was still so nice try. Superman is possible. We've got to be realistic about that. So far, it's the best they've given us. So we'll keep the Superman as a possibility. Now we'll go to the next one, please, Evan, because we've also got the one that it was a plane. But I've got to make the point, the person who made this and repeated it, he's really going to like this. It's not just a plane. It is a Cessna, right? He could tell. He could see the back. What's that thing at the back called?
Oh,
the thing that goes up. Tail. That's right. Yeah. I'm very good at this sort of stuff. I like technology. And the two wings. He could see all that. And the front propeller spinning around. That was Superman. He could see that, couldn't he? Because he's got X-ray vision and eyes. And ladies and gentlemen, you've got a map there of every plane in Northern Territory at 7:32. And there's one. It's a Jetstar flight going from Darwin to Adelaide or Melbourne. We're not sure which. And thank you again. I think Sarah sent that to us also. Thank you again. And you will notice there's the area where we are. There's about 400 k's between us. And by the way, we're looking towards Uluru, which is on the other side of that. That is on the opposite side. It's actually where our back of our head is. So, and it's 400 k's away. There are no planes there, except a drug running plane.
Oh, yeah, that one.
But that drug running plane must be running on stealth, a stealth bomber arrangement.
Yeah, they've probably got some fancy technology.
Like the Cessna, because Cessnas are actually also convertible into stealth bombers.
Yeah.
Same thing. So radar repellent, not picked up on a radar. So what we have actually ruled out are planes. Now, there was another one, which I'll include at the same time. It was a helicopter. Thank you for that. And that's why they put the music on, because honestly, if it was a helicopter, I live in the bush here in a rainforest, and we can hear a helicopter 5-6 k's away. If you're out in a flat plain in the desert like that, and there's nothing there, and 300 people were meditating, and I can tell you now, ask every one of them, we never heard a helicopter. Nobody heard a helicopter. And we were told by Sarah that her husband and her kids went out on the last helicopter at 4 o'clock, and it came back at 5. And then the helicopter pad was closed down. We've checked on that. No helicopter flew out of Uluru at that time, and they don't fly at night. And more to the point, as we're also told, it's against the law to fly over the rock with a plane or a helicopter. So what are we left with? Special ops.
Yep.
That's what we're left with.
Or
Special ops.
Superman.
Well, Superman's still in there. I haven't left it out. Oh, I'm trying to be impartial here.
Yep.
I don't want to feel like I'm pushing one side of the equation here. Special ops. So what's happened is, oh, hang on, it can't be American, because the Americans have just said they don't do this UFO stuff. They said it's not theirs. So it's got to be special ops with the Chinese or Russians who are working with the Australian. Oh no, we're actually trying to make a war with him. Must be special ops with another country, Mongolia, Chad, or Niger. One of those countries, anyway, special ops. And what they're developing is a plane that moves at about 50 k's an hour. That way they won't get shot down, will it? Very clever. And of course, you would do special ops work at Uluru at 7:32 at night, wouldn't you? That's the main time they do that sort of stuff. Right where everyone can see them, because that's where people are.
Yes.
It's a good idea to do it where no one can see you, but not in this case. So it's a covert special ops. Actually, it's more overt. It's a load of rubbish. And by the way, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really believe it's Superman, but I've got to keep something open on the other side because nothing else fits. Okay, so that's what we've got, these possibilities. And none of them, ladies and gentlemen, are based on any fact whatsoever. I find it interesting that so many people went to the trouble to attack us and tell us how stupid we are. I don't get this part about people attacking other people. I have a TV set, which I don't watch much because there's nothing on mainstream TV, but I have that choice because there's nothing on. You know what I do, Evan? I don't turn it on.
Yeah, you can turn it on or off depending on what you feel like.
And it's the same with this sort of stuff. If someone's writing something you don't like, I don't get it. If you don't like it, you don't read it. You just say, I don't believe in that. I don't know why people have to feel compelled not only to tell you you're wrong, but swear at you and insult you and threaten you. I don't see how that is needed. I mean, if I don't like the TV station, I don't kick its head in, do I? I don't smash it. I just say, I don't like this. I'm going to turn it off. I'm not going to ring up the TV station and abuse them.
No.
Well, I could, but it wouldn't make any difference. They wouldn't listen to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the base of what we've got there at the moment. Now, what I'd like to sort of close with, it's a very, well, it's not, you have to call it an ad, mate, is what we're going to talk about in our next conference. What I'm going to start by making a point. If you want proof for UFOs, if you do want proof for them, very simply, the best way to find that proof is not to take a picture of a UFO and say, I want to believe, like in X-Files. There's a better way. Go to the mirror. Yeah, and draw it. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you go to the mirror and you draw what you see there, you're going to draw a face, aren't you? A human face. But I'm going to let you in a secret. And something we should think about a lot more. When it comes to faces and bodies, can you show me some faces and bodies of non-humans, please, Evan? Have you got some?
Non-humans?
Yeah, next one. They're supposed to come up. Oh, look, we're going to leave the... Oh, hang on for a sec. I didn't read the script.
No, you didn't. I was like, what are you doing?
You should have told me. Man, I've gone off on a tangent. I didn't look at the script. Look, just go past that. We'll come back to that. No, I don't want to see that, nor that. I don't want to talk about that yet. Get past that. You should have known I didn't want to do that. No, I'm nearly there. Keep going past that. Go past that. There's the ad for our next conference.
Well,
that's the one we did.
Replay,
yeah, that's the one we did. But don't want to do that. Don't tell them about that. And that's the one that's coming up next, where I'm going to do more on this. And there's a picture of it, which is something else again. Then get to the part I want you to. That's it. We should have had that next. I'd like to apologise for that little balls up before. It's Evan's fault, not mine. Ladies and gentlemen, if I asked you to draw a picture of a lion's face, that's how it'd look. If I asked you to draw a picture of a horse's face, that's how it'd look. And I asked you to draw a picture of a human's face, and you've done one of your own. Now, I want you to think about something. That all lions, all male lions, look roughly like that. Mainly the same size, small variations, but that's how they all look. And when you get different types of horses, they all look like that, roughly. They might have different colours. And there's smaller horses, like miniature ones, and you've got zebras, you've got taller ones like that. But each of those subspecies within a species will have the same characteristics. Now, you'll find all those horses will eat the same sort of food, won't they? And they'll all run at roughly the same sort of speed, won't they?
Yeah.
All those things. And then you look at all the other animals on this planet. And even when it comes to our close relatives, the so-called the apes, you look at the chimps and you look at their faces, and you look at the orangutans and you look at the gorillas, and their faces will all be roughly the same. And then you look at humans and you say to yourself, okay, how tall are they? Well, they can be 0.5 meter tall. They can be 1 meter tall. They can be 1.5. They can be 2, and they can probably get up to 2.5. That's a big variation. There's no other animal that does that, but maybe that's just one thing. And of course, humans just eat one thing. We all eat grass like horses do. And then we eat everything else on the planet. And for one person, it makes you sick, and for another person, you love it. We can eat anything. And I'll tell you what, if you feed chocolate to a horse, won't do it any good. Feed it to a dog, you'll kill it. Feed it to us, kills us too, but slower.
Much slower.
Yeah, it's really good for your teeth too. I've heard that once. I used to eat a lot of chocolate. Did my teeth a lot of good. I don't want to think about that. And then I look at the humans and I say to myself, okay, do we have the same fingerprints? No, they're all different. Do we have the same retinal patterns? No, they're all different. Do we have the same coloured hair? No, it's all different. Do we have the same faces? Well, we've only got 2 eyes, 1 nose and a mouth, haven't we?
Yeah.
How come we can make 7 billion different variations on such a small area? None of that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. And I'm also thinking this, that our monkey mummy and daddy that made us, remember when they did that way back?
Yep.
We never found them, but I'm sure that did happen. And of course, all apes and primates and monkeys, they all have a sagittal keel, which means they don't have sutures, and all hominins have sutures. So when they gave birth to these beings that had heads that had sutures opposed to a sagittal keel, they all look the same. And you know, today when they draw brutish pictures of Homo erectus and Homo sapien and all the other homos, Australopithecus, always they look the same. And they've drawn them all the same, but when we do humans, they don't. There's nothing about humans that's similar to anyone else. And when we take a drug, be it a COVID vaccine, we will all have different reactions, probably lethal in the long term, but we don't go down that path. That's not ours to do. But what I'm getting at is this. When you look at the genetic pool of every other animal on this planet, you can source it from this planet. And because of that, all of them, nature made all of these different animals to have the same diet, roughly the same everything, with minor variations within that. And then they took humans and even the skin color. How can you get purple, black, brown, red, white, pink, all these different colors? And we're all saying, oh, yeah, we all came from the same mum and dad, didn't we? Yeah. All the same. Yeah, mum and dad way back, all the same. And all that, my mum and dad, they all look the same, so we do too. Well, do you know what? There's something wrong with our genetic reservoir, our pool. There's put us in reverse to every other animal on the planet. So my point is this. When you look in the mirror and you say, where are the aliens? Well, they're right in front of you. You are a collection of hominid genes, and there are at the moment, and we go into great detail in our next online conference about the fact at the moment that when I was a kid, I was told there was Neanderthals and us, and that's it. And 20 years ago, it was Neanderthals and us. Now there's Neanderthals, us, and 11 other hominins. And do you know what? I want you to think about this. Neanderthal, Denisovan, Homo heidelbergensis, a new one they found in China, where Chris Stringer said it's got a massive head, far bigger than ours, and the ones we've got, the no-forehead beings. And by the way, they found another being recently, a hominid that doesn't have a chin. Come on. There's genes playing around here that don't come from here to create all this. If you want to look for an alien, don't look for a spaceship. It's inside you. The genetic bank we have is from here and from up there. And what has happened is this. There was always a time in this experiment where they've brought everything together from all over the cosmos into one massive experiment where there was a fork in the road. I've heard out there they call this, what do they call it? The event, don't they? Yeah. This was what they came for. It shouldn't be about if aliens exist. It should be about why did they bother? And we talk about that in more detail in our next conference. But for now, what they did is they bothered because the main reason was it was leading up to this event. Because when this Earth heals itself, which is doing now, and we know because we've measured the Earth, well, we didn't measure it. We couldn't find it, could we? It went. It was so large. And don't think that vibration is just staying here. It's going out through the cosmos. They know that. And that's why they've invested so much time and energy watching us squabble and fight for thousands. For the last 6,000 years, all we've tried to do is kill each other. And they've been hoping and praying that enough people would join on that day and get past the killing and dedicate themselves to healing the planet. So, ladies and gentlemen, our story is very simply this. There's a fork in the road. There's a running river. And it's running fast, and we've got to jump in. And what you've got to do is the people are there. You celebrate with them when you're there. You don't take anyone else. And what you do in the meantime, I heard the gentlemen before talking about the fact that you go around and talk to other people. In our country, original people call that seed dreaming, where you are obliged to go out to other people and tell them about this. Don't tell them day after day. Tell them once and then walk on. And tell another person and another person. And in many cases, the seed will never germinate. Sometimes it will germinate quickly. Sometimes it might take months. Sometimes it might take never. That's not your job, because this is a time where each person's got to make their own decision. And the best part of this story is that every other life force on this planet is welcome to stay because they never broke nature's laws. So when the Schumann resonance lifts up, it won't harm them at all. But for those of us who do stay, one of the things I do know for sure is all of a sudden we'll have better communication with our animals. We'll find our totems and we'll start to link and live back with nature. Now, the trick is, if you're going to be part of this new tomorrow, you've got to get rid of all the yesterdays and all the baggage that's inside you. Of course, that's another story, and we won't talk about that now because I think our time's up because it's 1 o'clock, isn't it?
Yes.
We have 1 hour. And we knew we had to stop because we'd like to keep this right on time for the gentleman alongside us. So thank you so much for paying attention, listening to us. If you did pay attention, if you didn't, well, thank you for staying there and falling asleep. You can always watch it later and other people tell you about it. Okay, guys, until next time. Thank you.
Truly epic. Thank you all so much. Thank you, gentlemen. That was amazing. Amazing, amazing. Every time you go over it, I feel like I get more and more of it. And, you know, I'm so on board with what you guys are doing. And I really appreciate you guys sponsoring the event too. It's really, you know, your work is bar none some of the best I've ever seen. And I can't wait to keep hearing more. I will be at the ancient, you know, our alien ancestry conferences, and I'm just going to keep absorbing as much as I can from you gentlemen. And thank you.
Yeah.